wake of that recent historic prisoner swap between Russia and a group of 7 nations led by the United States, some of the political prisoners the Kremlin let go went to Germany, which historically has been a sanctuary for exiled Russian dissidents. VOA's Marcus Harton narrates this Richard Marquina report in Berlin.
The prisoners released from Russia in this month's historic exchange with the West arrived in Germany, a country accustomed to receiving those escaping Russian repression. Vitaly Vobar arrived in 2022. He used to be one of the few opposition members of the St. Petersburg Regional Parliament. After he spoke out against the invasion of Ukraine, the Russian Secret Services came knocking on his door. It was then he knew it was time to leave.
In
Russia, there are still many people with democratic and anti-war values, including among the deputies of cities such as Moscow, St. Petersburg, Tomsk, and Novosibirsk. But speaking out openly against the war is prohibited and poses a great risk.
When the full-scale invasion began, thousands of Russians took to the streets, only to have their protests put down by police. One of the thousands who risked their freedom to oppose the war was Anja Demidova, a Moscow actress. By the time authorities ordered her arrest, she was already on her way to Germany. She sees little hope for change in Russia anytime soon.
Among Russians who remain, there are many people who hope that Putin is not immortal, that he will die at some point, and everything gets changed. But it seems to me, at least, as I see it today, what is going on there, in terms of prevailing attitudes of Russian superiority, has such deep roots, and they are much older and stronger than Putin himself.
During the 2.5 years since Russia invaded Ukraine, Russian exiles have received mostly bad news. More arrests, more convictions, and the death in prison of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. There is a makeshift memorial to him in front of the Russian embassy in Berlin. Bad news has become old news for a comedian known as Dan the Stranger, who fled Russia with his family the day the war began. He is less known in Germany, where he earns a modest living doing stand-up comedy. Despite the hardships here, he doesn't think he'll return to Russia.
I prefer to earn less money but feel free and dedicate myself to humor as I want, not as they allow. This is why we do not live thinking about returning. We do not face it as something temporary.
Since the time of the Tsars, and later the Soviets, Berlin has served as a place of refuge for those fleeing repression in Russia. Many exiles see the current tensions between Moscow and the West as a new Cold War, with Berlin once again assuming its role as a symbol of the divide between the Kremlin and the rest of the world. For Ricardo Marquina in Berlin, Marcus Harton, VOA News.